Good morning. As we said yesterday, often throughout the history of Buddhism, it happens that when there are very important things to be remembered and practiced, somehow it's transformed in a kind of ceremony, something that should be done, and to help us remember and repeat that thing, somehow a structure is created, a kind of guideline, a map to do that thing, and how can I say? And it becomes ceremonial with this character of repetition, a kind of ritual. So, and on one hand, that's very good because that allows us to not forget, to repeat it. And we're given also a tool to do so. On the other hand, there's to not fall into that trap of and forgetting it, which is to inner state of being. Yesterday, the 7 limbs, something very praising, brings openly admitting one's own mistakes, rejoicing for virtuous aspects, and we look in front of us and we look at what we have, and in this case, with our spiritual guide, and that relationship needs to be nourished every day, and that's why we antidote our arrogance. So we make offerings to material, and nourish our and then we openly admit our mistakes. We rejoice for virtuous aspects. We direct ourselves towards the future. How long do I want to stay on this path? What are my expectations? What do I expect from my spiritual guide in this case? And why am I doing all of this? How am I going to dedicate what I do? These 7 paths, in my opinion, they're important to into practice in our daily lives, not spiritual guide. Spiritual guide, whether is it alive or not, it's something important within us to repeat these passages, to cultivate our path, to cultivate this relationship that we have. But I invite you also to observe and try to put into practice in the other relationships you have with your parents, with your children, with your partners, your friends. These 7 passages that really help keep a relationship healthy. The feeling that I have generated in this relationship very easy when they require effort, maintains in the aspect of Lama, like 100 volumes on 1,000 pages. So what and as he would write one passage line to write down, and 4 round. So it said, if you don't know something, ask Buddha. the kind of the Wikipedia time. I wanted to ask him, among these 100 volumes you could find the answer, but the problem, if you're not sure about something, if you have uncertainty, ask Lama Tsongkhapa. Che is a respectful way of saying father, makes reference to Lama Tsongkhapa, Che Rinpoche, the precious father, the precious master, venerable, precious. You translate it. If you're not sure about something, Tsongkhapa, because in the writings of Lama Tsongkhapa, any subject that he writes about, he doesn't any space for doubt. He takes a subject. First of all, he takes a point, he establishes his position, and then he makes a reference to previous texts, from Buddha's sutras to various previous commentaries. So he would say, Buddha said like this, Nagarjuna said like this, and he has all of his references to uphold his thesis on the basis of all the previous masters. And then he says, and in any case, if you were to have a doubt like this, and he establishes the doubts that were common at the time, then he does the counter, he counters it in a kind of debate. So if you say this, then I tell you this. If you say this, then I would say that. And so he establishes he clarifies hypothetical doubts. If you think this, I tell you it's not like this because this is like that. And so normally there's about a half a page to state his thesis, and then about 15 pages to prove his thesis and to uphold that idea. He has this clarity that when you read his books, normally it's hard for there to be any space for doubt. It's happened that I've read books, the books of by Lama Tsongkhapa, and I just tell myself, oh, I trust him. The first half page is enough for me. He explains his thesis well. The other 15 pages, but it's actually it's wonderful to read these hypothetical doubts, various aspects of the same thing. In any case, Lama Tsongkhapa had this clarity like no other at the time in Tibet. In any case. His books are very, very special, especially those that have to do with the correct view of reality and aspects related to Tantra, in any case. We do the practice of Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa because it's a way to connect to this lineage, to then access the teachings, connect to the teachings, and then and put them into practice. Because when we learn something new, we need to learn from someone. And it's important that there's a real connection. We don't learn from knowledge, but from he who transmits that knowledge. And when there's a feeling of affection and respect and faith from the person who transmits that knowledge, then there's a different it's the way we apply it is different. So so in this practice we are applying the 7 limbs towards Lama Tsongkhapa and who are inseparable from Lama, and with Lama, in my opinion, thing with different words, very good in their Mongolia, the religion. It's something which is to do that when we finish it, and we finish that part of the blessings before the absorption. We ask for blessings to realize each one towards each one of the steps towards enlightenment. In the Guru Puja, it's from verse 4. In Ganden Nyengu, you usually use the text written by Lama Tsongkhapa, this of all good qualities. We have it here within this sadhana. And here we have a step-by-step the graduated towards enlightenment. Here in this booklet, it starts on page 23, the foundation of all good qualities, the meditation on the graduated path to enlightenment. And in this moment, instead of reciting the foundation of all good qualities, we will recite the three principal aspects of the path. And as we recite the three principal aspects of the path, we imagine Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us as if he's transmitting that advice from heart to heart. And as he shares with us, transmit this, we realize them. This is what we're going to do now. So let's go right to the practice. We'll do it together. Some brief descriptions of visualizations as we did yesterday. It's possible to do this practice much faster. All sadhanas, all practices that are done with meditation, recitation, as I said yesterday, there are 3 levels: how to recite, the words, the meaning of the words, etc. There's what to visualize, and then there's this state of consciousness that should be generated. What's the objective? To familiarize ourselves with the state of consciousness, not with the words. That's why actually reciting in Tibetan or in English or Italian is fine. Sometimes people ask, well, why do we recite in Tibetan since we don't understand? Well, I understand, but one important reason is I don't trust translations, even the ones that I do myself, because Tibetan language is, according to the context, it can be translated differently. And once I make a translation and I take away the original language, it means that I'm establishing as version. When I have a translation, but I have access to the original, I can always go back to the original and see different view, different perspective. Another thing that's very important is that in the tradition, words are not there's a melody. Certain number of syllables, and so other languages like English, Italian, it just doesn't work. And to write, when we try to recite in English or Italian, it becomes, at least for me, it sounds like something that comes from the evangelic transition. It takes me somewhere else that has nothing to do with what we're doing. So I prefer that we recite Tibetan using melodies. Today, we will do the recitation of the 3 principal aspects of the path, specific melody for Lumpo Monastery in Tibet. And then in your own language, you can read the translation. two or three ways to do. So you can read everything in Tibetan, and then in your own language, or so you can read in your own language and then Tibetan, or Tibetan and then your own language, or verse by verse. I almost prefer reading first in one's own language and then recite in Tibetan, that one has more time to reflect on the meaning. And in some cases, it's better to do the opposite. What's nice is that there's no fixed rule. We can adapt. What the point is to generate an inner state of an inner state of consciousness. So now let's do the practice together. We sit in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. This first part of the meditation on our breath is something that normally when we do a practice in the group, it's not done. It's when for individual practice, but I think that it's important to learn how to do it. It's a part of the practice. It's very subjective to each person's time. In a very short time can generate the correct mind to begin the practice, and someone else might need more time. So that's why normally it's left for individual practice, but we'll do a brief version together to create this habit. So we sit in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. Our back is relaxed, our shoulders are relaxed. Our head is slightly forward, with our mouth relaxed, and eyes slightly closed, looking downwards. We bring our attention kindly, gently to our own breath without forcing. We simply observe the air that comes in and the air that goes out. We allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. Any other thought that arises, we don't give importance to it. We gently bring our attention back to the air that comes in and goes out. When we inhale, we gather up the tensions accumulated in our body. When we exhale, we melt these tensions. Inhaling, we gather up also the tensions gathered in our mind, like fear, anxiety, and all the tensions generated from our negative emotions. Without judging, we simply observe the tensions that have been generated. As we inhale, we gather them up, and as we exhale, they dissolve into the space in front of us in the form of dark smoke. So inhale and exhale. In the space in front of us, Guru Buddha arises in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, inseparable from our masters and every holy being. Seated on a beautiful throne, Guru Buddha smiles at us. Observing ourselves, we see our own cycle of suffering of some. We see suffering all actions of our past and manifest. We react cycle that manifests as birth, aging, sickness, and death, and then again rebirth, and so forth. We desire strongly, deeply to reach a state of peace that is long sustainable. Eliminate our mental defilement and specifically our selfishness from the root. To do this, we need to be guided and helped and upheld, supported. We ask Guru Buddha to help us. We take refuge in the Guru, in the Buddha who us and show us the path, the Dharma, the actual, and we take refuge in the Sangha, the short spiritual path. From the chakras of Guru Buddha, raise, emanate our 5 chakras, grant blessings. doesn't want to suffer. It's this strong desire to be happy. I want you to be happy, and I don't want you to suffer. For that to happen, we expand this feeling to being after the other. We have no other choice. We have no other choice. A Buddha, and so eliminate every mental defilement. In take refuge in generosity. I obtain good of all sense. We in the practice of generosity, morality, patience, and so we too can become a Buddha to help everyone do the same. An emanation of Guru Buddha comes towards us, enters in our crown, and sits joyously at our heart. We bring the result into the path, and we become the same nature, inseparable from Guru Buddha. From our heart, inseparable from the heart of Guru Buddha, light rays emanate. These light rays and nectar transform into what every being needs: food for the hungry, heat for the cold, coolness for people who are hot, protection for those who are in danger, affection for the lonely, until we get to being able to offer the Dharma of peace. Absolute health now and forever. May all beings relax. May all beings enjoy. We deeply desire that every being really be free from every form of suffering and also the causes of suffering. To help every being get out of suffering, we desire Buddhahood ourselves as soon as possible. And for this reason, now we will do the practice of Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. then from dissolves joy, peace, connectivity, and then fills up the entire universe. Everything dissolves into light. There's nothing other than void. An autonomous, independent reality, inseparable from a profound, and we are this union of bliss and emptiness of the clear light, the so-called Dharmakaya. In an instant, the universe reappears. We reappear with a pure body, a body of light. Light rays emanate that go to our whole surrounding environment in eliminating any conflict or impurity. The light rays come back and reabsorb in our heart. And in the space in front of us, an ocean of nectars, an ocean of offerings is generated. May the earth become pure without roughness or thorns, and be smooth in nature like the palm of a child's hand, like lapis lazuli. May the real and imagined offerings of gods and humans, as well as the clouds of supreme offerings of Buddha, pervade the entire expanse of limitless space. With an extremely beautiful aspect, a cloud starts very small and little by little to us Tsongkhapa is there with his two white curd, the wisdom being, Venerable Guru, the light, the supreme that the teachings may flourish. Request that you remain hundreds of eons. In the actual presence of Lama Tsongkhapa and Guru Lama Tsongkhapa, we prostrate with body, speech, and mind. The wisdom of your mind embraces the full extent your well-explained teaching of the four Your beautiful body is illuminated by the glory of your fame. I prostrate whom to see, recollect is so meaningful. In a state of gratitude and respect, faith, from our heart, innumerable offering deities emanate from our heart, bringing every kind of offering to Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa. Water to drink to wash his feet, flowers, incense, perfume, light, food, music, every form of offering. Tsongkhapa receives these offerings, experiences a state of bliss, deep joy with which he realizes the nature of nature of everything, and the offering days come back and reabsorb in our heart this ocean of clouds of mental Tsongkhapa, own ignorance and centric mind, our self attack negative karmic force of the path are completely. Here I confess and virtuous act of every being, every Buddha, sentient being, our own actions. We celebrate this virtue, these virtuous actions. We celebrate joy itself, generating a deep feeling. We ask during our and venerable gurus who have gathered clouds Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa in the best aspect for us, so that we can interact from the body of union is not subject to birth and extinction. May your gross form body, Bakaya, that appears to ordinary beings, remain stable and never wane until the end of samsara. Stimulated by this practice, may it benefit the teachings and all venerable, illuminated forever. From the depth of our hearts, ask Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa to bless us, to bless our body, speech, and mind, to bless our 5 chakras, so that ourselves is an mental defilement of Buddha, to have every being do the same. Offer the mandala. We offer the entire universe as a symbol with Mount Meru and the 4. May all share in its good effect. I offer you this precious mandala. Eliminating our revitalities, bringing us his highest joy, stability, humbleness in mind into balanced and harmonious.
Losan trape shabla sowa de dewe terchen si drime ambo jambe lian debu malu jumse sangwe da kan tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen si drime ke wambo jambe lian debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kepe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de me tsewe terchen chenre si drime kepe wambo jambe lian debu malu jumse sang tsongkapa losan trape tsewe terchen drime jambe lian debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche gen tsongka trape de ime tsewe terchen chenre si drime be wambo jambe lian debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche tsongka trape sowa de mime tsewe terchen chenre si drime ke wambo jambe lian debu malu jumse da kanche kebe tsugen tsongka trape shabla sowa de mime tsewe terchen chenre si drime kembe wambo jambe lian kanchen kebe tsugen tsongka losan trape shabla mime tsewe terchen chenre si drime kembe wambo jambe lian da kanche kebe tsugen tsongka losan trape shabla sowa de kanche kebe tsugen tsongka losan trape shabla sowa de
He light rays and over again actions and their effects that action contemplating the miserable appearance of future life is eliminated when by having renunciation has been pure bodhicitta, it will be the cause of the enlightenment. Trapped by the grasping darkness, distance, ceaselessly sufferings. Others are in the supreme mind of enlightenment. Out the wisdom, ultimate reality, renunciation, to cut the root of samsara. Therefore, strive for the method to dependent arising. Those who perceive the inevitable nature of cause and effect of all phenomena of samsara and nirvana, and thus totally destroy the grasping mind's object of perception, have at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddhas. Two realizations of the abundance and that of emptiness, the freedom from assertion, are considered separate. There is not yet the realization of the thought of the Ineffable One. When these two realizations exist simultaneously without alternating, and merely seeing the infallibility of interdependence completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent, then the analysis of the ultimate view is indeed complete. Furthermore, eliminates realize the crucial points of the
sheado lendre mi lu korwe dunganam ya ya sampe chi menang sheado te tara kompe korwe punsola yimen ke chi tsam yami ke shin nyen tsen kun tu tarpa tenyer lo chung na te tseng e chung ke bala nge chun te yan amda seman ke kin simpa me na la me chan chubu ye gyun gi mu ke ru la sum ge she me parna ab tu samne sim cho ke par ne o pera na ne chun jan chu sem la kom che kyang si pe tsa wa che par mi pe te chir ten re to pe tabla be kan she kor de che tam che kim gyun re nam nya lu wa mi ton shin mi pe te so kan yin kun shi pa nye sang ge pe lam la shu na wa ten re lu wa me pa dang tom pa ke len tal we ko wa nim je se so sor na wa te si tu ta don tu pe gom pa tok pa men nam she tse ta che ba dur cha na zin ro tar la o wa sum rang chi shin to pe em de to ke ne teng ur to trobo shi pagina 30
Page 30.
Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa
Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa smiles at us.
chiediamo a Guru Buddha
We ask
Tsongkhapa
Guru
di
Buddha
rimanere
Tsongkhapa with us in every moment,
di benedire
with us in every moment,
di benedire il nostro
to
corpo,
bless
parole,
our
mente,
body, speech, and mind
diverse,
on a subtle level, light, every a deep, bringing us blessings. Magnificent, please move my crown. Guide me with your great kindness and grant the realizations of your holy body, speech, and mind.
Alden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiwar Pete Tenshu La Kadrin Chembane Jesonte Koson Togi Ngodru Tsedu So Guru Radice
Magnificent and precious Root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon at my throat. Guide me with your great and please remain stable without separation from my body, speech, and mind until I attain enlightenment. He descends from my crown to my throat chakra, bringing light, eliminating all negativities, and increasing our qualities, bringing us the blessings of speech. Magnificent and precious Root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat at my heart. Guide me with your great kindness and please remain stable with me until I reach enlightenment. Guru Buddha descends joyously from our throat chakra and sits on the 8-petaled lotus flower at our heart chakra. The 8 channels of our heart chakra fill up with light, purifying every negativity related to the heart chakra. And from the heart chakra, all the subtle energy channels are filled with light, eliminating any kind of block or negativity. We generate an inner state of bliss that fills up our body and mind on a coarse, subtle, and very coarse level. In this state of bliss, we perceive reality and the interdependence of everything, the non-existence of an objective, independent, solid reality. As Guru Buddha sits at our heart, our very subtle body, speech, and mind become inseparable from the very subtle mind, speech, and the body, speech, and mind of Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa. We experience a deep sense of harmony and joy. Our speech, our ability to communicate verbally and energetically rests in the speech of Lama Tsongkhapa and sends and emanates the same light as Lama Tsongkhapa. Our mind rests in Guru Lama Tsongkhapa. We experience a deep sense of peace, satisfaction, harmony, with love, with passion, with compassion, and a deep awareness of the interdependence of everything and its lack of autonomous existence. We experience a profound state of nirvana, inner peace. We are one and inseparable, non-dual with Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa. Guru Tsongkhapa heart, seated joyously on the lotus floor with the sun and moon cushion, this the 8 petals of the lotus gently close, and Guru Buddha's flower, there's like there's for even an instant throughout all my life. In this way, we complete the practice of the yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. Actually, they exist in 2 moments. During meditation and in between sessions. All practices of healing, Guhya Samatha, Vajrayogini, or the actual practice of Guru Yoga can be practiced in 2 ways. During the meditative session and in between sessions, given that we spend much more time in between outside of a meditation. How we spend our time outside of meditation is very important. How do we apply the practice and the way that we act, the way we speak, the way we think, so that we can maintain the contact with the path in everything we do? In just a few words, we imagine that Guru Lama Tsongkhapa is there still in our heart, and during the day, if we have a moment of difficulty, we recall his presence, and we take refuge. We remember the teachings, and when there's a moment of joy, we offer that joy to Guru Buddha at our heart. Or if you find yourself in a moment of difficulty, we can imagine that from our heart, where there is Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa, light rays emanate from our heart to the difficult situation, to the person in difficulty. Or if someone praises us, for example, we can imagine that they're done directly to Guru Lama Tsongkhapa at our heart, so that we don't fall in the trap of becoming arrogant. There are different ways that we can integrate the practice into our daily life. And having meditated, the fact that our mind is inseparable, and if our practice is supposed to induce that this gradually in the same direction, I'm familiar with in the same way, not process makes a huge constant the difference more than intensity. That's why it's always present, something present in our daily life. Now, before stopping for lunch. Let's go back to the 3 principal aspects of the path just quickly. Yesterday, we saw that first important point, which has to do with this definitions, this certainty to be able to get out of the cycle of suffering, also described as the first necessary step along our path. In other words, before we do anything, the gateway that or to do anything is wanting it, desiring it. Before becoming a doctor, what do we need to do? We need to want to. When I desire something, I imagine the future. And at that point, I can construct the steps to, a little bit like when we leave for a trip. Before for that trip, first we need to desire getting somewhere. So if I don't know where I want to go, I'm not able to leave. I go a little bit here, I go a little bit there. Maybe I get somewhere nice, maybe not. So the future exists in our imagination. It is very powerful. And when we're able to dream, when we're able to imagine something, at that point, we can construct the necessary steps to get there. It's like when we take a physical trip. I want to go from here to wherever. I choose a place where I want to go, and I set my destination. I look at how to get there, what kind of transport I need. Do I take a train? Do I take a plane? Do I drive? And so I set up the trip step by step so that I can get there. But the first thing that's necessary is desiring it, is dreaming this definite emergence, renunciation thing. And so in this case, able to reach this suffering. Nyanyen la deba. Nyanyen is suffering. Le means from, and deba. So on suffering is the meaning of the word nirvana. Sometimes we have this idea that samsara is a place and nirvana is another place, and Buddha needs to take us to nirvana, and we ask Buddha to take us to nirvana. It's not like that. The concept at the basis is completely different. Samsara is an inner reality. It's an inner cycle of mental defilements, of actions and results, sufferings and reactions. Here, just turning and turning constantly. And nirvana is when we are free of this cycle. And there are 2 types of nirvana. One, if one says fine in the sense that the context have the influence, the increase of mental defilements. And then there are other places have a tendency to influence the qualities against one's suffering, or holy places, or but I mean, I can be inside a temple and having a very samsaric experience. If I do a retreat, for example, and I'm there for hours meditating and doing a good meditator, and everyone's looking at me, and I well, and not because I want to meditate well, but I want to be the good meditator, and I'm my eyes, backwards, slightly open, and I'm my mala is the right position. I want to be seen as a good meditator, and I'm using spiritual means to nourish my own ego, is to ourselves and recognize our own and want to get out. Guru Yoga Papa, when voice for the virtuous action goes on comfortable in Tibet because there were roads, but there were who training in this. The next month, someone came, if he could teach him how to and Lama 20, 30 years of your life with total dedication to learn how to levitate a meter and a half, 2 meters. Hey, there are elevators, there are airplanes. It's to dedicate that time to develop wisdom and compassion. Lama Tsongkhapa says that obtaining money is relatively easy. What is more important and more difficult somehow is overcoming the 8. The positive side is that once bring the 8 with environments, etc. Like a kind of time Dane Dharma on 3 things. Attach, where we expect our happiness on material wealth, on getting what we want. And we're not talking only about money or home, but also this attachment that we have to how things should be and how people should act, how situations should be, the material things we would like to have, even the attachment we have towards people. And so the first mundane dharma has to do with the attachment we have to external things. The second mundane dharma has to do with our attachment to our sensory pleasures. We projecting our happiness onto sensory pleasures. Third, that makes up 4 parts, has to do with the attachment to our own image. In other words, we project our happiness normally on these 3 things, on these things. Material own image. Acts we should receive, or that material thing, that or Christmas gift that we, or are we happy? Yeah. We are really projecting our happiness to that, and we're practicing that first dharma. Christmas that it's not what we want. Practicing the second one, we're upset when we don't get what we think we want or should have. When we think that we are suffering, have what we want, the situation, the way we be, the material thing is not what we wanted, the person is not acting the way we think they should, and we practice quite well too. The third mundane dharma, we get into the second category. You have a feeling of joy when we have a sensory pleasure, happiness for a sensory pleasure, and instead we suffer when we don't have that sensory pleasure or when we have some feeling of displeasure or pain. When we have what we like, we're happy. When we have what we don't like, we're unhappy. The food is tasty. How wonderful. I'm happy. The food doesn't taste good. It's disgusting. I'm upset. Do we practice this or not? These are the third and fourth mundane dharmas. Fifth and sixth, we're happy when we're praised. We're sad. We suffer when we're criticized. Do we practice this one? Are we able? Yes. And we're happy when and we're and I would get my hair done, and while they were doing that, who think about dressing with a suit and tie, and someone who goes and dresses it's like Salvation Army. No, we have we made an image of ourselves, and our way of dressing, our way of speaking, our way of interacting, very often conditioned by our own attachment to our image, how we want others to see us. We are strongly, strongly influenced by this, and this is one of the greatest traps. It's said that of the mundane dharmas, the most to abandon is the attachment to one's own image. It's said that certain meditators that go live in caves, they've abandoned their attachment to material things. What's there is there. What's not there is not there. They don't have pleasures of the body. If they don't have these problems with physical pleasures, but when they come down from the mountain to the village, they are there smiling. There's that attachment, the recognition of their image. Of course, not everyone, but different cases are have been highlighted. So among the mundane dharmas, these are our reference points. These are like a thermometer to see if the action that we're doing is a mundane action or a spiritual action. Spiritual is something that has to do with our inner development that goes beyond this life. It means developing fame. There's a difference of fame and power, but also of wealth from one life to the next, and create problems. So this system of reincarnation on one side is marvelous, means, and we someone who has a for the Dharma, create conditions for that person for him to continue develop those qualities. Or it's like saying someone who has an indisposition for music, when when he's reborn, if he in this no matter what it is, back to us, when we do, it's important for gradual path that is little spiritual. I met someone boss who he benefactor was going to door, and he just throws onto the altar and fills the altar hunched over, and so saw him of mud things because his master told him that because you told me to, I'm gonna go back there. And he's not a practitioner. He was there, twisted and hunched over with an ugly face, the altar of dirt, and he said, "No, explain to me. Tell me more. Tell me more. Really, it was like that?" The master puts his hands together and he says, "Capture," which is like the best praise that he could say. He said, no, he's doing the offering ever. He's going against the 8 mundane dharmas. So it's necessary on our side to have a true sincerity, being able to see our own weaknesses, because he saw his attachment to his image and he tried to not nourish that anymore. And it reminds me of a time that I went to one of my masters, is abbot of Tashi Lumpo Monastery in India, was also a master of Lama Michel Rinpoche, and there were many important lamas were at his house. They went to him, and in these Tibetan houses, often the doors are open and there's a kind of curtain. And so in the morning he would do his daily practices, and he was there seated in a state of like perfect meditation, but if he realized that someone was looking at him, then he would slouch, as if he didn't know how to sit correctly in meditation. And I remember I saw that dynamic, and it's about not wanting to transmit an image so that we're not attached to that image, and one recognizes one's own weaknesses. So there's this process where we recognize where we ask ourselves, where are we attached to pleasure, to power? Like one master who realized that he was attached to material things. He saw that if he took things and gave them to others, then he was attached also to the image of being generous. So what he would do is anything he was given, he would put it in a kind of cave without even opening the gift. And the day that he left his body, someone found that treasure, a heap of gifts that he had just left. But we need to look at ourselves, observe for ourselves. Many stories that I could talk about, even about myself, that are they seem like simple stories, but what experiences where we can see where we're attached to our image or to power or to wealth, where we're guided by these 8 mundane dharmas. And the danger is that when we do something virtuous and beautiful, but that is polluted by the 8 mundane dharmas, it's like putting poison in pure food. And at the end of the day, it's harmful. And one of the dangers is one spends one's life doing so-called spiritual things, mundane dharmas. And for example, I go somewhere that to help others so that he can help the patient follow a treatment. So feared a little bit. Needs to also be something that we need to observe and famous. And your hair's falling. And he started, no, take this team. That the didn't depend on it. I mean, she had done many artistic acted in different things, beautiful than these, but she understood the fame had to do with people and not her. Once she saw that she was famous and everything said and all the perceived didn't have to do with anything that didn't have to do with her, do with others, and that some kind of dynamic really changed for her. If someone criticizes me, where is that criticism? In me or in someone else? In someone else. If you say that I am something or something else, does that make that? No. Let's remember, their praises or criticisms, these are not things that determine who we are, but I need to be coherent with how I want to. The image that I have of myself is important. It has to be congruent with my actions. But if I keep acting where my priority is how people see me, then I'll just be making fun of myself because I'll be creating things that are not real. How much attention, how many fights, how much anger, how much resentment, how much violence in our own lifetime has it come because of mundane attachment? Have you ever been upset because someone spoke badly of you? I imagine yes. So it's important for us to observe these mundane dharmas and say a little bit, little by little, I need to stop practicing them. Secretly though, because then otherwise it becomes I'm the good Buddhist and I look what I'm doing and I'm not practicing, I'm not touched by the 8 mundane dharmas. This reminds me of a time, and then with this we stop for lunch. Years and years ago, I was just a boy. I was living in India and I would read the news. I would read two weekly magazines. There was Newsweek and Time magazine, and one day in one in in one week, I saw that it was present. There was an article in both magazines. It was an article about a man who was like a middle class man. It said that he uses a $5 watch and he travels in economy. That was the under his photo. But what he did that for many, many years, he kept a secret that he had founded a business, the duty-free business. These duty-free shops in the airports. So he founded this business to help others, and he kept it secret from his family. At a certain point, he sold it for something. It was like $7 billion, something enormous. He sold that business. He made a foundation with the he made a foundation, and he went in all sorts of projects, and the money had to be used, completely used up within the arc of 9 years. But with the condition that no money would go to him or his family, or that his and he didn't want any kind of recognition. So his name wasn't supposed to be part of the foundation or anything. And I read this and I thought, wow, this is really an action of a bodhisattva, absolutely free from the 8 mundane dharmas. But he actually kept his job, and I can imagine the reaction at home, where he's sold the company for billions and didn't even keep $1 million or $2 million for the family. But the fact is that he did something with a motivation that was free from the 8 mundane dharmas. And in our life, when we're able to do something free from the 8 mundane dharmas, the result has a much greater result. A prayer or an action of help towards someone free from the 8 mundane dharmas has a greater power, a greater result. So as part of this first passage of loving ourselves, we need to gradually eliminate these 8 mundane dharmas, at least generate the awareness of their existence, that something that and we shouldn't feel guilty that they're there, but gradually try to free ourselves from them. So now we will stop for lunch before we open up the subject of bodhicitta. But at 3:30 we will come back to talk about bodhicitta.
Losan tempe drume sasumgi drowe munsela tautu ne gyurchi kyewakuntu yanda lama dang dralme cheki pel chechin sadan lange kopan yurtob sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Ninsen taktu delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lob kuncho sumki ngodrubutsol kuncho sumki trashishan.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Gyobalame Tamcho Rinpoche, Drimbalame Gendurim, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chopa. Bon appetito.
Have a good lunch and see you at 3:30.